Okay, so hello there. My name's Sam Poda, and I'm going to be doing a tech talk about my team's project called Simple Tracer. I'm a 15-year-old student, high school student in Singapore. So a bit of context behind Simple Tracer. So Simple Tracer was built during 2020. So in 2020, we had this thing called the COVID-19 pandemic. For the people watching right now, you all know what the COVID-19 pandemic was, but it basically changed everyone's lives. We were stuck at home for 3 to 6 months, and for those of us who are no longer stuck at home, we are socially distancing, wearing masks outside. It's a fairly apocalyptic world at the moment. COVID-19 is highly infectious and spreads quickly. So far, as of August 1st, it's infected 17.6 million people, with 679,000 deaths, and that rate is rising rapidly. And those are just the reported case numbers. We don't know. There are many probably unreported case numbers due to a lack of testing. So contact tracers are overwhelmed, and this leads to a large amount of unlinked cases. Now, what unlinked cases means is when they don't know where they've got the virus from. So they don't know who's transmitted the virus. And when this happens, it often means that there's a pool of cases that just simply haven't been identified through testing. And this is a very worrying sign. So contact tracing needs to be stepped up, and we need easy ways to contact trace. Oh. So, what's the problem? Contact tracers need an easy way to reliably find who has entered a building and retrieve their contact information, because often contacts happen in closed spaces like buildings. They need to be able to retrieve their contact information from who's entered this building after they find a case. They need to be able to find out who their case has been in contact, and they can do that by seeing which buildings they've entered, and then they need a way to alert them to begin their mandatory stay-at-home notice. So the application should be easy to set up due to the need for speedy action when a pandemic hits. One thing we saw was that the countries that acted quickly were able to open up quicker. So acting quickly is a must in a pandemic. It should also be easy to use and not require much technical knowledge. So what was our solution? Our solution was to build 3 apps. Each app serves a unique purpose. So the first one was Flamingo. Flamingo is an app, as you'll see in the demos later, that allows a user to check in and check out of buildings. It's really simple and easy to use. Hornbill is a tool for contact tracers to identify contacts of the infected people. So it's what the public service uses to identify contacts. It then alerts them of their need to enter quarantine and gets crucial personal details in seconds. So it's really easy to access who's serving a quarantine and who needs to enter a quarantine, and the contacts details and all that, and addresses and ID numbers. Then finally, Hummingbird is a tool for venue or building owners to register their venues or buildings and then get a unique check-in QR code that people can scan to check in and check out of their buildings. So the technology use. We use Python and Flask for all 3 applications. It's used as a web backend, and it's chosen for its versatility and Python's countless modules. We use Airtable as a database. We chose this for its ease of use, so non-technically minded people can view the database and work with it without getting overwhelmed. We use GitHub and Heroku to deploy/host the code. So we host the code on GitHub, and then there are deploy buttons in our README that allows people to easily deploy in about 5 minutes or each app onto Heroku. And we've chosen these for how accessible and easy to use they are, as well as competitive pricing. Then we've also used Twilio, which is used to send text messages for Hornbill. So it's chosen for its affordable pricing once again, and its countless integrations. So it works with all sorts of programming languages. We've used JavaScript to create service workers so that Flamingo can be used as a PWA, and it's easier to store on a phone, whether it's an Android, an iOS phone, or a specialty phone. And we've used Flask Login to secure the admin dashboard for only authorized users. This means that the public can't get people's personal data and it's all secure. So Flamingo is the most complex part of the thing. So I've produced a flowchart just to show how it works. So how it works is the user scans the QR code. Then from that QR code, it will be storing a unique place ID. We'll then look that place ID up in the database and identify it. Then the user will be prompted to enter an ID number. So when they enter an ID number, we then check, do we already have details for them? So this basically means that first-time users will have to enter more details. So they'll just have to enter their address, their phone number, and their full name. So once they've entered that, they'll never have to do it again, and it'll be stored in the database. So if we do have the details, then we ask, are they checked in already? So if they're checked in already, that means they need to check out. So we then go to check them out, and immediately on checkout, we identify contacts and store those contacts in the database for quick and easy access. But if they aren't checked in, they just got to check in, and then it shows them a success page for both end cases. So here's a demo of how it works. First thing I'm going to be showing is Hummingbird, which is a tool that helps people generate QR codes for their place and adds their place to the database of places. These QR codes will be crucial as they will allow people to check in to the places. So we can see it's generated here, and you can see there's a QR code generated just here for us. And next up is Flamingo, which you scan the QR code and then you can enter in your details and check in. If you don't have all our details on file, it asks you for the details, as you can see here. And then if you do it again, it will automatically detect that you need to check out, and it will check you out easily. So here we can just see them checking out. Yep. And if you forgot to check out, it will check you out. And then next up is Hornbill, which is how we find people's contacts. So you can see, just logging in, and then you can click Fetch Contacts, and then type in an ID number, and it'll fetch all the contacts for you. So you can do that, and then you can click Issue Quarantine Orders, and it'll send a text message to them saying they are required to stay at home for 14 days as part of quarantine. And then you can also see everyone who's serving a quarantine order at the moment and all their details through these cards, which make it super easy and really intuitive. And then there's also documentation, so this is super easy for anyone to set up, clear instructions and contributions. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that demo. So I just want to now speak about a challenge we faced. The challenge we faced was security. So we had to make sure we ran all the database code server-side. This is crucial, and there aren't any workarounds. You can't make a hacky solution. You've just got to do it. It's to be secure. Then Flask login is really handy. Without it, it would have been 10 times harder to secure the private data we have in Hornbill. And then just some general good practices. Don't cut corners, encrypt passwords, and use HTTPS, etc. So we spent a lot of time focusing on security and doing research because that's something none of our team had ever worked on before. So some additional lessons that we learnt. We learnt a lot about making docs user-friendly. So we looked into open source projects and we saw how they had done it. And we wanted people to really be able to deploy this tool really easily. So we found that images and clear formatting help with this, creating everything that's easily formatted. And then we learned, just don't give up. We experienced a lot of challenges and had to stay resilient. And finally, of course, add a .env to your git ignore file because really you don't want to be committing API keys. So what's next? We want to expand the suite of tools, mostly focusing on improving the functionality of the admin tools, such as mass imports, custom quarantine orders, and being more flexible. I'd also like to revive the API project. So early on we had an API project, but we ended up scrapping that because it's insecure. And but I'd like to find a way that we can or build a system that allows people to interact with these things securely. in their own apps, so governments can be flexible. Add unit tests so things don't randomly break before we forget to test them. This happened a lot. And then make the deployments more customizable. So be able to add your logo, your government name, the country name, the city name, etc. Be able to do that. And then some credits. So Simple Tracer was built by me, Sam Poda, and Riya Joseph. We had mentorship from Paul Nabende during Code Day Labs. We also like to thank the following open source projects. All these open source projects were crucial to our success as a group. And then to finish off, thank you for taking the time to listen. You can learn more at simpletracer.tech. And if you'd like to contact me, my email is hi@sampoda.com. So thank you so much for listening. Have a wonderful day, and thank you again.